Fresh from Swiss Watch Expo, we have two exceptionally rare Breguet watches that are similar in their aesthetics, but very different in the function coming up. First up, we have the Breguet Royal Marine. Now, this is exciting because if you were a royal, this is definitely the kind of watch that you would wear. And it's part of the Marine series from Breguet. So it is, I'm not really sure, it's not a full-on dive watch, but at the same time, maybe it's a little bit like the vein of the Yachtmaster, where it certainly could be ocean going, it certainly could be in the water, but I wouldn't really think of this as a full-on dive watch, even though it does have this really great rubber strap that's got the Marine Royale logo inside in blue that matches the blue indicators on the dial. Really well thought out watch and an interesting aesthetic. It kind of has a steampunk look to it, but it is a big watch. This is a 45 millimeter watch. It came out in 2010 and caused waves. And there's lots of different waves on this watch as an icon to the Marine series. Interesting watch though, when you look at the dial, it is an 18 karat gold dial that is hand engraved on the rose lathe to get the guilloche pattern. And then it's, they call it a black rhodium dial. It is really interesting and a beautiful dial that has a lot of interesting things going on. But first, let's start on the sort of outboard functions. You notice there's not a crown at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, there's this sort of lever pawl that works like a spring, a click spring for the bezel, and it keeps it from going the wrong way. So it is a unidirectional turning bezel, and it's neat that they get to sort of show you the mechanics of how this works. The crowns, this one that's at 2-ish, is the one that controls the functions of the watch. You unscrew it and you can wind the watch manually. That will increase the power reserve indicator. Now the power reserve indicator on the dial of the watch, that is just for the alarm. It's not for the watch as a whole. As you move your wrist, the rotor on the case back, in the movement, it will wind the power reserve for the alarm, but it takes a long time for it to do that. So it's probably better if you're going to use the alarm, give it a manual wind here with the crown. You'll see the power reserve indicator go up and you'll know you've got plenty of power reserve for your alarm. The alarm itself, you're going to set by unscrewing this crown and then turning it, and it allows you to set the alarm to any position that you like. This wave button down on the bottom left, that allows you to turn the alarm on and off. It's indicated by a little peephole towards the top of the dial that either shows a musical note or not, depending on whether the alarm is on or off. But a lot of interesting blue features on here. I love the blue alarm setting indicator as well as the blue numbers there. The luminova that the dial is loomed with, it's heavily loomed, beautiful dial. It glows blue as well. But all in 18 karat white gold. It's a big watch at 45 millimeters. It's also really thick. So you've got to be comfortable with a larger watch on your wrist to enjoy this watch. But man, I really like it. On the case back on the movement, you can see it's got the marine seashell style engraving on the rotor. A lot of great details there with the Cote de Genève and the perlage and the guilloche on the movement. But the main idea of this watch is that it is very, very unusual compared to everything else you'll see in the wild. You probably would never see someone else wearing the same watch, and definitely a strong conversation piece. Next up, we have the Breguet Type XXII chronograph. So where this one is a super fancy dive watch, this one's a super fancy chronograph. The bezel on this one is bidirectional, so it turns either way. That's in keeping with it being more of an aviator kind of watch, more of the original Breguet Type 20 that dates back to the 1950s was an aviation watch. This is the Type 22, so it's the latest iteration, the latest in the evolution of this watch. And I'll tell you, this watch is just incredible. When you watch this operate, The movement here beats at 72,000 beats per hour. So most of your watches are around 21.6 or 28.8. We're talking this beats at 3 to 4 times the pace of a regular watch. That means that instead of the chronograph beating at 8 times per second, like a lot of the chronographs out there, this is 20 beats per second. That chronograph hand almost looks completely smooth the way it goes around. And if you notice, it makes 1 lap around the watch every 30 seconds. So you have to kind of learn a new way of looking at the timing of the watch, because if it were, say, at the bottom of the dial, that's not 30 seconds, that's 15 seconds. So interesting way the chronograph works on this one. The chronograph hand that goes around twice per minute, but then there is a long center mounted minute indicator. There's not a subdial for the minutes, it's this other hand, and it will actually come around and indicates the minutes on the chapter ring on the edge of the dial. So that way you get your minutes for the chronograph. There's also the hours. This one at 6 o'clock that shows 12 hours, that is not a 12-hour indicator for the chronograph. That is a second time zone. So you got a lot going on here with all the various functions that are happening with it. But the finish on it is just beautiful. The bezel is brushed. It's got a lot of bright work on the sides. The movement itself, they're showing off that 72,200 beat movement. They show you a little window here for the escapement. And you can see it just looks like it's flying compared to other watches out there. This one, again, it's a big watch. It's a 44 millimeter watch. It's also really thick. So being made of 18 karat gold, if you like to feel like you've got a chunk of watch on your wrist, this is the one for you. But again, it is so unusual, and you're just not going to see other ones like it out there in the wild. Breguet watches to begin with are very low production, and then these particular models are extremely low production watches that you're not likely to see again anytime soon here at SwissWatchExpo. So give us a call, see if they're still in stock. We'd be happy to do a FaceTime video. We'll show it to you on the wrist. We'll show you our service center and our store, and we're happy to help you with purchase and pricing information.